I think at least it's very personal, but in my case, I felt very happy in the sense that you can feel, understand that your hard work is paying off, that people are recognizing your work, your efforts, your style, the way how you do your career, you know? And I think that's very important because at least in my case, and I know many engineers who are working hours, who are really spending our life in a studio, you know? I am very conservative when I record. Totally the opposite when I am mixing. Mixing, I'm very liberal, very free. But when I record, I'm very conservative. I really basically don't use anything more than microphone and mic pre. Super purist. I don't know why, but it's the way I think maybe because I want to have more chances later. I think that's the main reason. And I use, for example, the analyzer. I love the analyzer. I was looking for an analyzer that have all the features that the HOFA one have. And I love it especially because it's very precise, you know. You can see that it's really reading the frequencies. I like to see what's going on when I'm recording in the very low end, where there's so much information. You can have so many instruments overlapping each other in low end. So you can see what you need, what you don't need, what's going on, have more headroom. Well, it's very hard to tell that. You know, it's like if you want to have strawberries and ice cream, you want to have both, right? So I will say that really you have to choose two, the EQ and the compressor. You know, and it's very hard. And in some ways, sometimes they can overlap each other. You know, you can use them both because the EQ is amazing. You know, can be a compressor in a way, can be like a multiband compressor. It's a dynamic EQ. I mean, it's so many things, you know. And EQ is a very important tool. I love the sound of the compressor. It's kind of crazy maybe for certain people to say when you have a lot of other plugins that do emulation of classic compressors, right? And I don't know, I just like this compressor so much. I like the sound, the way it sounds. Have a sound. It's clean, but it's open. You know, it's very musical too. And with the new version, you know, where it's kind of, I would say, a more straightforward way of how it was the previous one, you know, where you have the 2 points, you know, where you can expand or compress. I think it's being organized in a more efficient way. It's more clear, actually. You can understand it better. And I love because with the compressor, you can expand certain frequencies. You know, I love, for example, the idea that if you're working with a mid-tempo song or a ballad, right? And a lot of people, you know, use the bottom snare for the more the brittle, the rattle sound, you know? And, you know, you have the top mic of the snare. But actually, in certain recordings, I love to use the bottom snare to amplify or expand the very low or low mid frequencies of the snare. And trigger it by, you know, some kind of 1K or whatever, you know. So every time you hit the snare, you have the boom going up. And it's like a pillow. It's like a sound that moves, you know. This is what I like about compressors. A lot of people use compressors more in a way of taming the peaks, putting everything more even. I tend to do that more with bass, okay? Oh yeah, I love the river. The river is very great river. I was very impressed the first time I checked the river. I was playing actually with the presets, right? And I have this beautiful, cool function that you have already a kind of a source, you know? So if you don't want to be playing back, you know, doing a loop or whatever, it's just very easy. You just put, you know, for example, vocals or whatever, you know, any other instrument, and you just play the instrument from the river plugin, and then you change the preset and you can compare and get a vibe. And I was doing that and I was very impressed. It's great when you have a river that you know is doing a task very well. So when you want something to sound in a very natural space, you have that river, for example, right? Your reverb. You know, it's very natural sounding, a beautiful decay. The details are very, very nice. That was basically an album that was, they won a category of Best Vallenato Records, that was important for Latin music. That's a type of music from Colombia, so it's very popular and very well known, a lot of rhythm. And it's interesting because I am more involved in the really pop rock, alternative music. And that was my first time to do something like that, of that type of music. And that was very interesting, it was a very amazing story overall to work actually mixing and having this song, for example, like the one was a single with two big artists, Felipe Peláez and also Intocable. It's from the US, a very pop kind of Mexican feel. They did together and was a very amazing fusion. And funny, I really was working so hard after all this time, after all this record, and I didn't even notice about the Grammy thing. Of course, I work with major artists, but in my case, I really love to work with a lot of new artists, a lot of independent artists that do something very different, because my sound is different. I always like to put a lot of energy, emotion, and weight on the music. And, and sometimes when you do that in certain markets, it's a little too liberal, Oh, well, right now I'm finishing that record, Funny Asteroids. I am also, I'm working now with an artist called Sarah Pakiam. She's from Ireland. She lives in Miami. She's a great, great artist. I am mixing a band from Canada. It's an electronic rock band called Noia. Very, very cool band. Amazing songs, really. Very happy having great products, great artists to work with.